Okay, hey guys, Wellness Wednesday today, and I want to share something that's a really, really, really big topic. It's telling me I need to close some tabs, so I'm just going to quickly do that. Let's just do that. Seems to be better. Is Trimester Zero. And Trimester Zero, this is a big one. I'm actually quite passionate about this topic. What by Trimester Zero is what you do in preparation for trying to get pregnant. And the mistakes I see women do again and again and again, and the general consensus that's out in the community with trying to fall pregnant and not understanding that actually Trimester Zero, the phase before you fall pregnant, is the most important. And I quite often see women going through this process and doing massive things or massive mistakes, or not really understanding the seriousness of it and just being focused on getting pregnant. So what I want to share with you today is the mistakes I see and a lot of the things that you really want to do before trying to get pregnant. And I say, sometimes I catch myself saying fall. I think that's an Australian term. It's ridiculous. So if I say it, I'll correct myself, because I was just like, we don't just fall over and get pregnant. It's ridiculous. I think it's a bit of an old English term or something, like you just fell and then you got pregnant. Yeah. So here's the mistakes. One of the things you want to understand, like when we're talking about getting pregnant, preconception care, being during pregnancy and then into birth and having a newborn, is that the health status of you and your body before you start needs to be strong and healthy and fit. And people understand that in theory, but they really don't understand it. And so what I want to share with you is some of the things that I know that are really important, and also a little bit horrifying, that hopefully will make you reconsider if you are in this situation, in this phase of your life where you are either trying to get pregnant or you're considering getting pregnant at some point in the future, or you're struggling to get pregnant, or you're about to do IVF, or you're going through IVF. All of what I'm saying is going to apply. And one thing I notice is that women can be very also on their time frame, like they're like, no, I want to do it now. And I'm like, okay, when I just explain what I'm going to explain to you, I'm like, can we have at least 3 to 4 months of good solid work, at least ideally 6, where we can really work on things and clean up it's like the foundation. Think about when you're building a house, and say you want to pour a concrete slab. You've got to clean up and lay down the foundation and make sure it's solid, and make sure there's footings, and like all of that has got to be laid down before you build the house. That's the best analogy. It's like that analogy. There's a biblical story I remember learning as a kid, for like building a house on sand or building it on rock. And it's like you want a good foundation, and this is the bit that I see, because then there's complications. There's a lot of complications if you don't do this right. It can potentially make the whole process a hell of a lot longer, and also make things a lot more complicated, not just for you and for your pregnancy, but also for the health of your baby, right? So you only have one chance at this. It takes 2 sets of chromosomes, and they've got to mix together, and there's DNA, and it's like, how do you make a healthy baby? How do you create a child? And so what creates healthy DNA? What creates the genes to be expressed in a way that is healthy, as well as what nutrients do we need, and what components are going to influence that expression of the genes. And when we talk about genes, we want to know, I want you to remind you that I've said this before if you've been following me for a little while, that genes are expressed through the environment. This is called epigenetics. Epi meaning above, genetics. And so we only have so many genes, but we have many gene expressions. And so for our DNA to be expressed in a certain way, there's things with our genes that can be switched on and off. It's our environment that impacts that. And everything I'm going to be talking about from here within is our environment, and that includes the chemicals in our environment, the way that we are nourished, the way that our body is functioning, the environment that we live in, how much sunlight we get, how much clean water we get, how much exercise we get, how we manage and perceive the world, and how we manage our stress, the joy that we have in our life, the purpose and meaning we have in life, all of it. Okay, that is what gene expression. And stress is one of the biggest things when people are trying to get pregnant and conceive and have a healthy conception. Stress plays a massive role, and also that whole process can put a massive stress on a woman, on a relationship, and so having tools to deal with that as well, right? Now I'm going to give you a bit of a concept. So when someone comes to me and says, I want to get pregnant and I want to work on it, there is a study on the Environmental Working Group that was done back in 2005. So this is now 16 years ago, which is a freaking long time ago in terms of, and it wasn't a big study, but they had a study where they got the umbilical cord blood of babies as soon as they were born, and they tested them for chemicals. And the tests revealed, it wasn't a huge study, it was like, I think it was 10 or 20 babies or something. Hang on, I've got it written down. 10 babies. And this is back in 2004, actually. But the study was 2005, like the publish of it. 287 chemicals were tested, right? Now, of that, they found 209 compounds in the blood. Right, they first reported 261, and then they had in the cord blood 209 compounds. And among that were 8 I can't even say it, petrochemicals used in stain, oil, repellents, fast food packaging, clothing, and textiles, including Teflon, which is a chemical called PFOA, which is actually known as a human carcinogen. And then there was a whole heap of other chemicals that I've got listed down here, right? There was things like mercury, polyaromatic, polyaromatic hydrocarbons. So this is from things like burning gas, garbages, and stuff, also linked to cancer. There were things in flame retardants, so things they use in foods and on clothing for flame retardants. There were different types of chemicals besides the Teflon, things like Scotchgard, fabric protectors, food wraps, all those sort of contaminants. They're linked to cancer, birth defects, and much more. There's a group of chemicals called polychlorinated dibenzodoxins, which is called PCDD, and it's pollutants from industrial bleaching, incineration. It also causes cancer in humans, and it's very disrupting to the endocrine system. They also found organochlorine pesticides. So this is DDT, which has been, by the way, not even banned like for quite a few decades now. DDT is that chemical that is used as a pesticide, and it causes a lot of birth defects. It's still in the food chain, right? PDDEs, which is, I'm not even going to say the freaking word, polybrominated diethyl ethers, which is flame retardants in furnitures, computers, televisions. They also found polychlorinated PCNs tested in, so this is another type of chemical, wood preservatives, varnishes, lubricants, oils. It's a very common contaminant. It's also in the food chain, can cause liver and kidney damage. Now this is all on the Environmental Working Group website. Polychlorinated biphenyls. And this is also another type of chemical, right? It's pretty horrifying, and you can look this up on the Environmental Working Group. I really encourage you to do, right? But here's what they found. I found this and I was just like, oh my God. And I actually remember talking about this when I was studying nutrition, because I studied at a naturopathic college. So we talked a lot about preconception care and that type of thing. That's very the training that I received is very much in that realm. And so there's a whole heap of human carcinogens, okay? 180 of these cause cancer in animals or humans. 217 are toxic to the brain and nervous system. 208 cause birth defects, abnormal development in animal tests, okay? So that was a study that was done 16 years ago. We are now in 2021. That was a freaking long. And yeah, okay, it was small, but it gives you an idea, because those chemicals are chemicals that, and there's would be, I've read other things as well, but for the point of this, you know, that was a long time ago, and there would be a whole more other chemicals that are in our environment now. And we've just got to be conscious that there is a lot of things in our environment that just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And we want that good foundation, because we don't want that going onto our baby. It's also wanted to point out that I did read further on that it did say that also a lot of these chemicals are actually a lot stronger to an unborn baby for obvious reasons, because they're smaller. But it's going through, if it's going through the blood of a mum, it's going to go into the blood of an unborn baby. So when we're talking about cleaning up the environment, we want to really make sure that we've reduced all our toxic exposure, and then we're also making sure, okay, what is it that we actually need to build a healthy baby? First of all, it's two of you. It's not just one, it's an egg and a sperm. And a lot of the time I also see women coming and they're like, yeah, I got to do this. I'm like, what's your husband doing? Has he getting checked? What's his levels are? Like, how is he looking after his health? Because all the burden and the responsibility is often put onto the woman, and it's not fair. Okay? Just to give you an idea of, you know, so we've got to go, okay, what is it that required to make a healthy baby? And what in our environment can we reduce exposure to? Because reducing environmental toxins can ensure we have healthy sperm and healthy egg, and it can reduce the risk of miscarriage and pregnancy complications, as well as complications or the health of a child. Yeah, and so it's not just about what you do now and just getting through it and having a healthy baby at the end. You also want, like, the gene expression, the gene expression to be healthy throughout that child's life into adulthood. No. Right? And so it's really, really important that I just can't stress this enough, that you just think about that. And a lot of women come to me, come here. Say hello. This is my baby. This is my fur baby. Yeah. I've got attitude. I've got some tude, man. I think it's really important that we really just take the time to spend the time doing the groundwork. And what I see is women get impatient and they don't want to wait. And then the time passes and then they can't get pregnant, or they have problems, or they miscarriage. And I'm like, the time has passed anyway. And it can be 6 months, 12 months down the track and they haven't done anything. Or they haven't done the work. I'm like, just take the time out and just do it. And so when we're talking about risk factors, you know, you're cleaning house for a new arrival, essentially is what you're doing. And it's like you want to take time to clean the house. It's sort of, think of the analogy, it's like if you had a baby, newborn baby, would you put that baby in a tip? Like, just say there was a rubbish tip, would you go and put your cot in that rubbish tip? And the answer would be no, hell no. So you're sort of doing the same thing if you're not taking the time to really clean out and making sure there's a good foundation. This also applies if you're going to do IVF, because you still have that environment it's still growing inside of you, whether or not it's artificially inseminated or how it's done. You know, like, you got to do it. You've got to do the groundwork. And I just think it really breaks my heart sometimes when I see people that don't do the groundwork, and then there's complications in pregnancy, in birth. You know, the complications then can get passed on to child. So I just want to talk about the risk factors of complications. So obviously I've just harped on about chemicals and stuff, and that's a big one. There's some others. Age is a risk factor as well, and any GP will tell you that too, but I don't want to talk about that because I'm like, you are as old as you are, and there's not really anything you can do about it in this moment. So weight is a huge risk factor, and I think weight is something that mainstream medicine are definitely very aware of. It's a massive risk factor of, so obesity, having a high BMI puts you in a risk factor of more miscarriage, stillbirths, pregnancy complications, things like preeclampsia. More complications in pregnancy can lead to more complications in birth, or more complications in birth is more likely to lead to a C-section, so not having a natural birth. Having kids, then that you're more likely to have kids who are going to end up as diabetics as adults or as children, are more likely to be asthmatic, more likely to have impaired growth. So there's a lot of really massive risk factors with that. And with that weight, I also think there's probably a lot of deficiencies going on with that too, because if someone has a high BMI, they wouldn't be, their diet probably isn't going to be as good as it should be. They might have or have had a lot of ongoing nutritional deficiencies. There could be thyroid issues going on as well, which are driven by nutritional deficiencies. So I think a lot of those are also a ripple effect of other things, such as deficiencies, stress, lifestyle factors, and it's all going to also affect epigenetics, remember, above genetics. So this is huge. So if you are overweight and you are trying to fall pregnant, I would really consider, like, you need to get really honest and clear with yourself and be like, why do I want this? And there's a story that I shared with and I've shared this a few times, I can't remember if I've shared it in this group. I've shared with some clients of mine, it's like, you've got to get really clear on why. Because, yeah, okay, there's risk factors and we want the pregnancy now, and it's like, but why do you want a healthy baby? Why do you want a good birth? And I want you to think about, you know, that reason why waiting 3 to 6 months and really working on yourself and really addressing the underlying issues, addressing the insulin resistance, addressing the weight or thyroid issues, or getting to the bottom of it, is going to have huge effects. But sometimes we can forget. And here's the difference of, you know, why is it important to you? Why is having a healthy baby important to you? And really remind yourself of that. And getting in your best shape as possible is super, super important. And for a lot of women, that involves actually needing to lose weight, because the risk factors of having a baby or falling pregnant when you are overweight are there. They're real. Like, the science is there. And so it's proven. And so you are at much less risk of a lot of complications if you do take the time to really get yourself in check and go, okay, I do have to get myself healthier, and I've got to get myself in a healthy weight range. That is the reality of it. Stress is the other one that I think is a huge one. And often we need to understand that when our body is in fight or flight, our reproduction is the first thing that will go offline, because it's not safe from a nervous system point of view. Our brain is like, it's not safe to conceive right now, so we're just going to shut that down for a time being because it's not safe. And so if we're constantly stressed, and I think this can have an impact as well, even with miscarriage, IVF. If we're not feeling safe, we're not managing our stress, and we're not actually actively deciding to slow down when we're trying to conceive, before we even get pregnant. This is where it comes down to Trimester Zero. Trimester Zero is about treating your body as though it's already pregnant in Trimester Zero and nourishing it as though you've already got this beautiful little baby inside of you that you want to look after. It's not about waiting until you fall pregnant and then looking after yourself. And it might be the complete opposite, because a lot of women can still get, because of the hormones, morning sickness and not be able to keep food down. And there are different, it can impact women differently. But if you've done at least a solid foundation of Trimester Zero, you're going to be a lot more likely to be able to get through that as well. So stress, managing your stress, how you're sleeping, how much sleep you're getting, are you getting enough rest, and basically, are you feeling safe and secure? Are you in a heightened state of alarm, and where is that coming from, and how are you managing it, and doing work around that as well. Poor diet, which is what I was talking about before, which leads into not getting in enough vitamins and minerals, and then there can be often deficiencies. This can be anemia, so low iron, low B12. It's also folate. And a lot of what I see is a lot of women will go and put on folic acid, but they might actually not be converting their folate to the activated form of folic acid or folate from their vegetables. Folic acid's the vitamin form. And I actually give all pregnant women or people trying to fall pregnant an activated form, whether or not they've got this gene variation, which is called MTHFR, because it stops us from converting folate to the activated form. And I just, as a blanket rule, because most of us are not methylating correctly, I sort of now just give everyone activated B vitamins. But a lot of the pregnancy supplements don't have the activated form in it. The one thing you need to know as well about folate is it's important to be taking it before pregnancy and to get your levels checked, because it's really only in the first 2 weeks that folate's important for neural tube defects, because the neural tube is the first thing that develops. I would recommend looking it up if you're in this world. Look up neural tube, how an embryo develops into a neural tube. And we start off as a tube and like these layers. And so the neural tube develops, and it's in the first 2 weeks. So that's when the folate is really important. If we don't have active levels of that, or correct levels, it can be neural tube defects, which, folate's important for other things as well, but that's why they really drum it in with pregnant women. So if you are not on it, and then you don't know you're pregnant for 3 or 4 weeks, and then you go on it, you sort of missed the boat, because it was the first 2 weeks that it was the most important. It's still important, but it's not as important. And that's the bit that they really drum in. Iodine, really important for cognitive development in an unborn child. Having a healthy thyroid before you get pregnant is really important as well, because hormones need to be working well, and if the thyroid's not working, there's going to be other implications of that. And addressing that involves going, okay, well, what's our iodine levels? What's our selenium? What is our zinc? What is our vitamin D? All of those things are important we want our thyroid to be healthy, so we've got enough energy, so that we're metabolizing things properly, our digestion is working properly. It it's in the engine room, essentially. It's involved in energy production, in sleep. You know, it's so important, and particularly with pregnancy on another level. It also isn't one of those things that can also get passed on to the child. So making sure iodine, I can't stress enough, iodine and zinc, vitamin D. Zinc really important for growth, development of like cell replication, for immune system function. And zinc and iodine is the two things, along other things, that they don't test, the GP won't test. And I'm like, this is crucial for pregnancy. So you want to be checking your levels and making sure they're optimal, not just within range, because you could be optimal and you still could be low. Other things that are risk factors are poor digestion, so you're not absorbing nutrients. Another thing on iron, just while I was on it before, I sort of skipped over it. We use the most iron in our last trimester of pregnancy. Women will use the most iron. So you want to make sure the tank is full. This is what I say to people as well going into IVF. It's like you just want to make sure your tank is full. So you're going in with a full tank so that everything is, all systems running. You know, you don't go on a road trip and start off your trip with an empty tank of fuel. It's the same thing. You want to check your oil's good. This is what you're doing. You're looking under the bonnet going, is everything ready? Is everything ready to go for this big, long, massive road trip that we're about to go on? And so iodine, zinc, selenium, and iron. And iron's important because we need iron to get oxygen around to the body, and there's a massive uptake of usage of iron in the last trimester, and if we haven't got enough iron, and often women will be okay until the end, and then they'll have to go get an infusion, and you really don't want that, because having such a big influx on iron, I don't think is the greatest. I don't think it's the greatest way to do it, and it would be better if it could be avoided, because high levels of iron can cause oxidative stress in the body. That's my take on it. Drugs, including caffeine, alcohol, and tobacco use. So if you're a big coffee drinker, you drink a lot of alcohol, you take party drugs, you smoke cigarettes or weed, all of those are things you want to go, okay, they're going to also increase my risk factor, and the things that I want to really reduce and eliminate totally before I'm trying to conceive. Chemicals in my environment and pollutions. I've talked about electromagnetic frequencies. This is things from mobile phones, Wi-Fi, protecting yourself, getting really clear on how you're protecting yourself. Men, do not carry your phone near your pocket if you are trying to conceive, particularly. It's radiation, and radiation has been shown to damage sperm quality. So I would be getting a cover for your phone, not having your phone in your pocket near your man parts, because it's going to cause damage. The other thing is oral contraceptive use. So if you are on the pill, you really need to allow, and I say this to people, you're going to have to allow 12 months to get off it before you start conceiving. Maybe you'll be lucky and maybe you'll start to get a normal period. The pill can, like within a couple of months, but the pill can seriously make you deficient in a lot of nutrients. So you want to also be testing your nutrient status as you're coming off it, because long-term use of oral contraception can cause deficiencies in a lot of different things. There is a syndrome called as post-pill amenorrhea, which is when you don't get your period after the pill and it takes a long time to get it back. If we've been on the pill for a long time, our hormones, the pill will make us go our hormones completely offline, and there's no communication between our pituitary gland and our ovaries, and that takes time for that signaling to start to work again, and sometimes it can take up to 18 months, if not longer. So you don't want to be in that situation where you're like, okay, let's do it, and I'm ready now, and now then you're going, oh shit, I'm not even getting a period, I'm not even ovulating yet, because you've been on the pill for the last 15 years, okay? So you want to give yourself 6 to 12 months before trying. Other medications can also cause risk factors. So testing. What needs to be done in Trimester Zero? Testing needs to be done 100%, and this is the first thing I would want to do. Hair tissue mineral analysis is a really nice test that I often do because it measures heavy metals and your balance of minerals, and I really like that one, particularly for preconception care. It's actually a pretty reasonably priced test. It's about $130. So you can do that, do your detox from your protocols, and then go and test again, and if things came back high, and be like, okay, cool, we got that down. Zinc, iodine, selenium, iron, vitamin D, folate, B12, these are all important things. Making sure, you know, like and then you want to go for a good 4 to 6 months of preconception care. So sperm, for example, if there's issues with sperm, in the motility, in the quality, like you can turn it around fairly quickly, a lot easier than you can in women, 2 to 4 months at least. The lifetime of the time it takes sperm to develop and regenerate, 2 to 4 months is a decent amount of time. So you want to be in that time when you're in this preconception care phase, doing things like really focusing on your gut health, really focusing on changing your diet, eating as much organic, like reducing the toxic load as much as possible. So eating as much organic fruits and vegetables, good quality meats, not eating processed refined carbohydrates, just eating a really clean, healthy diet, eating the rainbow, getting lots of variety of color in, eating to feed your microbiome. And you've got to remember as well, when a baby is unborn, the microbiome gets passed on to the baby. So the state of your gut health, and it happens 2 ways. One, it happens via the placenta, and the other one, it happens via the birth canal when baby is born, right? So during the birthing process, because the mouth opens, goes down the vagina and comes out, and in the birth canal there's all this microbiome. They've got this process now that they call seeding. I don't know, I got really interested into it like ages ago when a few friends of mine were having babies, and I was like, okay, when you have the baby, you can get a swab and you can actually cover the baby in get a swab, insert it after you've had the baby, or when you're having a C-section, sorry. Then when the baby comes out of the C-section, out of your tummy, you can then cover it in, like swab it down and cover it, and that's getting the microbiome of the mum more so. So, but you then goes back to, you want the microbiome of mum to be healthy and to be really thriving. They'll also get it through breast milk. So that's really important. So what you eat beforehand and making sure your microbiome is really healthy is crucial. Controlling blood sugar levels, huge. Making sure that your blood sugar levels are stable. That's going to reduce your risk of gestational diabetes. It's also addressing the weight issue, the glucose management, the insulin resistance. All of those can impact unborn baby and the health of the baby born when it's born. Reduce your chemical exposure, so looking at your skin care, looking at, are you drinking clean filtered water, are you drinking tap water, you know, all the chemicals in your environment. The food's a big one, the skincare a big one, but also cleaning products, environmental toxins. Are you sleeping with your phone next to you? Like, you want to change that. I'm giving you like a full crash course. Regulating your stress levels. Are you moving your body? Are you sweating? Are you exercising? Are you getting plenty of rest? And also working on the emotional aspect. And I see this a lot with women who are also going through IVF, or they've gone through a process. It could have been miscarriage, or trying to get pregnant for quite a while, trying to conceive for a long time, and there can be an emotional component of that, and really allowing yourself to process that, move through it, but also looking at, is there any fears around what you're going through, or what are your beliefs around being a mum, being a parent. All of that as well can also really impact it. So working on that, and having people around you in a support team to work on these things is well really important. And it applies both to men and women. It's not just the woman. I said this before, like, It's got to be both. It's got to be men, and it's got to be husband and wife, partner and partner, like, you know, because it's it just does. It's not fair to have one person doing all the work and the other person not, because it's 50-50. And then the other thing, which is the last and final thing, which I think is really important, is are you actually ovulating, and do you know when you're ovulating, and are you measuring it? So are you measuring your temperature? Are you measuring ovulation? You can buy sticks that you pee on. How are you measuring it? Are you really aware of when you are actually ovulating? Because your cycle could be 35 days, so your typical levels of when you actually ovulate could be a little bit different to when you think. Say, for example, if you've got an app, the app could be like, yeah, you're ovulating on day 14, but you're actually not. You're ovulating like day 16 or 18. So that's really important. Everything I said applies even with IVF. Maybe not the ovulation part, but it just depends on where you're at with that. But everything else is super important. I think going through this process can be really challenging in the best of times, but I also think it can be a really enjoyable process. But give yourself the space and time to allow that process at least 3 months, you know, ideally 6, to really go Trimester Zero. We're really going to focus on looking after ourselves, nourishing ourselves, and making the best baby possible, so we're in the best health we can be to create a baby. And sometimes as well, I just had a little thing, you know, if this is a second child or a third child, the health of you also really matters, because often when you've gone through this process of breastfeeding several times, babies will suck you dry. And one of the best ways also to detox, and I forgot to say this at the beginning, is to have a baby. I did a post about this the other day. I was like, do you want to know the best way to detox? Have a baby. And we will detox. Our body will naturally detox and pass it on to the baby, because from a traditional point of view, like a biological point of view, we've never had as many chemicals in our environment as what we have now. And if there was something there that needed to go, it wouldn't have been a big deal every hundreds of years ago or thousands of years ago, because there wasn't these chemicals in our environment. But now it's getting passed on to babies. So really super important. If you've got any questions, please comment below. Please reach out to me, send me a private message. It's just something that I am very passionate about, because I do also find it heartbreaking when I see women be like, no, it's okay, I'm just going to see how it goes. I'm like, no, you need to be on top of this. Like, this is your biggest responsibility, is to go, okay, it is my responsibility to do everything I can in my power to bring a healthy baby into the world. And I have a lot in my power that I can do before I've even conceived. That is all. I hope you found that helpful. If you've got anyone that you want to share this with, please share it, and I will see you soon. Bye.